Hello and welcome to another Choski review. My name is Josh Cho, and today we're going to be comparing two wonderful whiskeys that I've reviewed in the past, and that's the Glendronach 12-year-old and Macallan 12-year-old. Both 12-year-old single malt whiskeys in the same region of Speyside. As you already know, one of my favorite regions. And they're both quite similar in terms of the sherry influence. The Glendronach is a sherry influence with two types of sherry. It's Oloroso and PX, Pedro Jimenez, and Pedro Jimenez. And the Macallan is just in the Spanish Oloroso, which both whiskeys are quite sweet and quite enjoyable. But today I wanted to compare them because, well, they're one of my favorite whiskeys, and as you can tell by looking at the bottles, they're almost already done. And so, as they highly recommend, they being the whiskey connoisseurs out there, that once your bottle gets down to about a fifth or even a quarter way down to fully empty, the best thing to do is just to finish the bottles up before a month or two passes, because the oxidation will really deteriorate the quality of the whiskey. So that's why I decided to make this video, so I can just kind of get through these whiskeys quickly before they lose its peak in taste and in smell. So we'll just kind of hash out what the differences are. I didn't look at my review in the past that I made of the Macallan and Glendronach, maybe in 3 or 4 months ago. I don't know when it was when I made them, because I didn't want to taint my my review of today with the way I smell and taste in 2017. I mean, my taste buds and how I smell things are always constantly changing, depending on, and it could be anything, right? It's quite psychological in terms of how your brain interprets flavors and smells. So that's why I didn't want to look at those reviews. I kind of wanted to do a fresh start. So what we're going to do is I'll pour these guys out, and I'm not going to talk too much about them since I've kind of gone through the gamut of talking about the distilleries and how they're processed, the kinds of oak and sherry that's being used. As I already mentioned before, Oloroso sherry only for the Macallan, Oloroso and PX for the Glendronach. And what we're going to do is just go through the smell for both of them. I did look at these whiskeys earlier though, and I don't know if the appearance is that different. I mean, you can tell just from looking at it yourself that here's my Macallan. What I'll do is just make sure I don't mix this up. Macallan on my right, Glendronach on the left. We'll just match the bottles. Okay, so the Macallan's on my right, Glendronach on the left. The difference. Ding. The difference is pretty subtle. I really can't even tell that much. Maybe the Macallan has a darker color. That's kind of interesting because the PX cask usually tends to have a much darker influence than the Spanish Oloroso. If you guys ever had PX before, it's extremely dark, fortified wine. It's like practically not even see-through if you pour PX Pedro Jimenez in a wine glass. Or it's a very syrupy. Oloroso sherry is also quite like that too, but PX is it's almost black when you pour it into a glass. So I would assume that the PX and the sherry influenced whiskey, which is one on the left, my left, this is the Glendronach, would be slightly darker or have more of a maybe a ruby or red hue, mahogany hue, but I don't think it does actually. They kind of basically have, I would say they have they would have less of a darker color than the Macallan. The Macallan seems to have a much darker hue to it, which is surprising. When I looked at the bottles themselves, I actually thought the Glendronach was darker, and maybe that's because of the type of glass the Glendronachs use versus the Macallan, the glass in the bottles. Sometimes these bottles have a thicker piece of glass in it when they make it, and that can also change the color. They're not always exactly the same, so having them in the identical glasses here really gives you more of an objective look at the color. I don't know, kind of interesting. So I'm going to smell the Glendronach first. Yeah, and immediately off the bat, sweet sherry. and very intense raisins, right? Like, as I mentioned before, my last review about the Glendronach and the Macallan, they're very sweet, really decadent, kind of desserty kind of smells that you're going to get out of whiskey. Super nutty, some hint of spice, very, 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 very beautiful. I'm going to smell Macallan. Oh, man, that smell is... Oh, it's good. Honestly, the Macallan, right off the bat, it's got much more of a deeper fruit. It's got a much more deeper raisin, which I'm surprised. I thought the Glendronach had a deeper raisiny smell. But there you go. Comparing them is actually a really nice thing to do because you can actually parse the differences out. Oh man, that smells really good. So what I kind of like about the Glendronach is even though the Macallan isn't, even though the Glendronach isn't as sweet as the Macallan, if that's the kind of thing you're going for, because I also really do enjoy that aspect in cherry whiskeys, is that sweetness and that smell. The Glendronach does, it does something that's actually quite nice. I think it's actually more interesting than the Macallan after you start nosing it for more than 2 or 3 minutes. The Glendronach seems to have much more of a layered smell. There's more to it than just a really intense raisin. Like I get other fruits in the Glendronach that I don't pick up as much in the Macallan12. I really get it when I smell the Glendronach. I can start to kind of peel like the onion of all the different kinds of layers. Maybe the onion's not a good analogy since it smells nothing like an onion. But in terms of layers of flavors, it's definitely more complex in the Glendronach. Yeah, but both are fantastic whiskeys. I do get all that tropical fruit with the raisins, and the Macallan is just so intensely raisin. It's like overwhelmingly that flavor. It starts to become kind of one note sided in terms of what it smells like. If you really try to keep thinking through the flavors, I mean, you can pick up caramel, you can pick up butterscotch, you can pick up walnuts, certainly brown sugars and stuff like that. But I can parse out way more fruit and flavors out of the Glendronach, which is kind of why I actually prefer the Glendronach12 smell more than the Macallan. But fantastic, Macallan12, you guys are doing great things. And I love this product, so I hope it never goes away. And for the price point right now, around $50, I'm extremely happy here in California. So, okay, off to the taste for the Glendronach12. Extremely creamy, very good body, nice finish, very nice and spicy towards the end. Not too spicy, but just a hint of that oak, and very, very sweet forward. Obviously the smell that I described is all there in the taste, which is really fantastic. I love that kind of very obvious connection between the smell and the taste. Fantastic whiskey. I recommend the Glendronach12 any more than I've already kind of spit at you in the last review. Okay, off to the Macallan12. Let's see what this one tastes like. You know what? The Macallan12 actually has more of a I get more of this spicy finish than the Glendronach. It has much more of a kick at the end. I don't know if that's because I've had that Glendronach12 a little bit longer than the Macallan12, so it's kind of been aerating longer, so it's opened up more than the Macallan12. But the finish on the Macallan12 is a little bit more, feels a little more punchy. The flavor of the whiskey, it's pretty close to the smell as well. It's very intensely sweet forward, and it's kind of one-noted. It has that very intense raisin. If you've never had a sherry whiskey before, though, out of these two, I would say start with Macallan12. It's a very good entry-level sherry, and it's great price point, natural color. But after you get through the Macallan12, I would say your next step to go into more of a little bit complex whiskey of a sherry influence, go straight to the Glendronach12. You can't go wrong with that. There's of course Glenfarclas makes great sherry whiskeys, Abelauer, tons of stuff out there, but these two I would say are the top pick for my entry point, sherry influenced at the right price, $50, $60 range depending on where you're getting it from. Okay, so that's my review between the two. Stay tuned for my next videos. Probably going to stick with these two distilleries again since I already own an 18-year-old for both of these. The miniature size for the Macallan, the bigger size for the Glendronach. So I'll go head-to-head battle between those two whiskeys, and hope you come back and join me again for that review. Okay, till then, see you guys next time. Bye.